Hello, it's Spencer, and I will be reading the first chapter of The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. I do not own this book. Credits all go to her, obviously. But, here's chapter 1 of The Outsiders. When I stepped out into the bright sunlight from the darkness of the movie house, I had only two things on my mind: Paul Newman and a ride home. I was wishing I looked like Paul Newman. He looks tough and I don't. But I guess my own looks aren't so bad. I have light brown, almost red hair, and greenish gray eyes. I wish they were more gray, because I hate most guys with green eyes. But I have to be content with what I have. My hair is longer than a lot of boys wear theirs, squared off in the back and long in the front and sides. But I am a greaser, and most of our neighborhood really bothers to get a haircut. Besides, I look better with long hair. I had a long walk home and no reason, and no company, but I went in anyways, for no reason except I like to watch movies undisturbed, so I can get into them and live them with the actors. If I see a movie with someone, it's kind of uncomfortable, like having someone read your book from your shoulder. I'm different that way. I mean, my second oldest brother, Soda, who is 16 going on 17, never cracks a book at all. My oldest brother, Daryl, who we call Derry, works too long and hard to be interested in a story or drawing a picture. So I'm not like them. And nobody in our gang digs books and movies and books the way I do. For a while there, I thought I was the only person in the world who did, so I loaned it. Soda tries to understand, at least, which is more than Derry does. But then, Soda's different from anybody. He understands everything, almost. Like he's never hollering at me. He's never hollering at me all the time the way Derry is, or treating me as if I'm 6 instead of 14. I love Soda more than I ever loved anyone, even Mom and Dad. He's always happy-go-lucky and grinning, while Derry's hard and firm and rarely grins at all. But then Derry's gone through a lot in his 20 years, growing up too fast. Soda Pop will never grow up. At all. I don't know which way's better. I'll find out one of these days. Anyway, I went on walking home, thinking about the movie, and then suddenly wishing I had some company. Greasers can't walk alone too much, or they'll get jumped. Or someone will come by and scream grease at them, which doesn't make you feel so hot, if you know what I mean. But you get jumped by socialists. I'm not sure how to spell it, but it's the abbreviation for socials, the jet set, the West Side rich kids. It's like the term greaser, which is used across all us boys on the East Side. We're poorer than socials in the middle class. I reckon we're wilder too, not like socials who jump greasers and wreck houses and throw beer blasts for kicks, and get editorials in the paper for being a public disgrace one day and a set to society the next day. Greasers are almost like hoods, but they steal things to drive old souped-up cars and hold up gas stations and have gang fights once in a while. I don't do things like that. Derry would kill me if I got in trouble with the police. Since Mom and Dad were killed in an auto wreck, the three of us got to stay together only as long as we behave. So Soda and I stay out of trouble as much as we can, and we're careful not to get caught when we can't. I only mean that greasers do things like that, just like how we wear our hair long and dress in blue jeans and t-shirts, or leave our shirt tails out and wear leather jackets and tennis shoes or boots. I'm not saying either socials and greasers are better. That's just the way things are. I could have waited to go to the movies until Derry or Soda Pop got off of work, but they would have gone with me. Or driven me there, or walked along. Although Soda just can't sit still long enough to enjoy a movie, and they bore Derry to death. Derry thinks his life is enough without inspecting other people's. Or I could have gotten one in the gang to come along, one of the 4 boys Derry, Soda, and I have grown up with and consider family. We're almost as close as brothers. When you grow up in a tight-knit neighborhood like ours, you get to know each other real well. If I had thought about it, I could have called Derry. He would have come on his way home and picked me up. Or Chibit Matthews, one of our gang, would have come to get me in his car if I had asked him. But sometimes I just don't use my head. It drives my brother Derry nuts when I do stuff like that, because I'm supposed to be smart. I make good grades and I have an IQ and everything, but I don't use my head. Besides, I like walking. I about decided I didn't like it so much, though, when I spotted the red Corvair trailing me I was almost 2 blocks from home then, so I started walking a little faster. I had never been jumped, but I had seen Johnny after 4 socials got a hold of him, and it wasn't too pretty. Johnny was scared of his own shadow after that. Johnny was 16 then. I knew it wasn't any use, though, the fast walking. I mean, even before the Corvette pulled up beside me, and 5 socials got out. I got pretty scared. I'm kind of small for 14, even though I have a good build, and those guys were bigger than me. I automatically hitched my thumbs in my jeans and slouched, wondering if I could get away if I made a break for it. I remember Johnny, his face all cut up and bruised. I remember how he had cried when we found him, half conscious in the corner lot. Johnny had it awful rough at home. It took a lot to make him cry. I was sweating something fierce, although I was cold. I could feel my palms getting clammy and perspiration running down my back. I get like that when I'm real scared. I glanced around for a pop bottle or a stick or something. Steve Randall, Soda's best buddy, had once held off 4 guys with a busted pop bottle, but there was nothing. So I stood like a bump on a log while they surrounded me. I don't use my head. They walked around, slowly, silently, and smiling. "Hey, Grease," one said in an over-friendly tone. "We're going to do you a favor, Grease. We're going to cut off all that long, greasy hair off." He had a Madras shirt. I could still see it. A blue Madras. One of them laughed and then cussed me out in a low voice. I couldn't think of anything to say. There isn't a whole lot you can say while waiting to get mugged. So I kept my mouth shut. "Need a haircut, Grease?" The medium blonde pulled out a knife from his back pocket and flipped the blade open. I finally thought of something to say. "No." I was backing up away from the knife. Of course, I backed right into one of them. They had me down in a second. They had my arms and legs pinned down, and one of them was sitting on my chest with his knees on my elbows. And if you don't think that hurts, you're crazy. I could smell English leather and shaving lotion, and still tobacco, and I wondered foolishly if I would suffocate before they did anything. I was scared so bad I was wishing I would. I fought to get loose, and I almost did for a second. Then they tightened up on me. The one on my chest slugged me a couple of times. So I lay there still, swearing at them between gasps. A blade was held against my throat. How'd you like a haircut just below the chin? It occurred to me that they could kill me. I went wild. I started screaming for soda, dairy, anyone. Someone put his hand over my mouth, and I bit as hard as I could, tasting the blood running through my teeth. I heard a mutter curse, and I got slugged again. And they were stuffing a handkerchief in my mouth. One of them kept saying, "Shut him up, for Pete's sake, shut him up." Then there were shouts and the pounding of feet, and the socials jumped up and left me there lying, gasping. I lay there wondering what in the world was happening. People were jumping over me and running by me, and I was too dazed to figure it out. Then someone had me under my armpits and was hauling me to my feet. It was Derry. "Are you right, pony boy?" He was shaking me, and I wish he'd stop. I was dizzy enough anyway. I could tell it was Derry, although partly because of his voice, and partly because Derry's always rough with me without meaning to be. "I'm okay. Quit shaking me, Derry. I'm okay." He stopped instantly. "I'm sorry." He wasn't really. Derry isn't ever sorry for anything. He does. It seems funny to me to It's funny, he should look just exactly like my father and act exactly the opposite of him. My father was only 40 when he died, and he looked 25. And a lot of people thought Derry and Dad were brothers instead of father and son. But they only looked alike. My father was never rough with anyone without meaning to be. Derry is 6'2", and broad shoulders and muscular. He has dark brown hair that kicks out in the front and a slight cowlick in the back, just like Dad's. But Derry's eyes are his own. He's got eyes that are like 2 pieces of pale blue green eyes. They've got determination set to them, like the rest of him. He looks older than 20, tough, cool, and smart. He'd be real handsome if his eyes weren't so cold. He doesn't understand anything that's not a plain hard fact, but he uses his head. I sat down again, rubbing my cheek where I had been slugged the most. Derry jammed his fist in his pockets. "They didn't hurt you too bad, did they?" "They did. I was smarting and aching, and my chest was sore, and I was so nervous my hands were shaking, and I wanted to start bawling, but you don't just say that to Derry." "I'm okay." Soda Pop came looping back, but then I'd figured all that noise I heard was the gang coming to rescue me. He dropped down beside me, examining my head. "You got cut up a little, huh, pony boy?" I only looked at him blankly. "I did?" He pulled out a handkerchief and wet the end of it with his tongue, and pressed it gently against the side of my head. "You're bleeding like a stuck pig." "I am? Look!" He showed me the handkerchief, reddened as if by magic. "They pulled a blade on you?" I remember the voice. "Need a haircut, Greaser?" The blade must have slipped while he was trying to shut me up. "Yeah." Soda's handsomer than anyone else I know. Not like Derry. Soda's movie star kind of handsome. the kind of people stop on the street to watch go by. He's not as tall as Derry. He's a little slimmer. But he has finely drawn, sensitive face that somehow managed to be reckless and thoughtful at the same time. He's got dark gold hair that he combs back in long, silky, and straight. And in the summer, the sun bleaches it to a shining wheat gold. His eyes are dark brown, lively, dancing, reckless, laughing eyes that can be gentle and sympathetic one moment and blazing with anger the next. He has Dad's eyes, but Soda is one of a kind. He can get drunk in a drag race or dancing without ever getting near alcohol. In our neighborhood, it's rare to find a kid who doesn't drink once in a while. But Soda never touches a drop. He doesn't need to. He gets drunk on plain living. And he understands everybody. He looked at me more closely. I looked away hurriedly, because, if you wanted to know the truth, I started bawling. I knew I was white as I felt I was shaking like a leaf. Soda put his hand on my shoulder. "Easy, pony boy. They ain't gonna hurt you no more." "I know," I said, but the ground began to blur as I felt hot tears running down my cheek. I brushed them away impatiently. "I'm just a little spooked, that's all." I drew a quivering breath and a quiet cry. You don't cry in front of Derry, not unless you're hurt like Johnny had been. The day we found him in the vacant lot. Compared to Johnny, I wasn't hurt at all. Soda rubbed my hair. "You're an okay kid, pony boy." I grinned at him. Soda can make you grin no matter what. I guess it's because he's grinning so much himself. "You're crazy, Soda. You're out of your mind." Derry looked at us as if we had knocked our heads together. "You're both nuts." Soda merely cocked one eyebrow, a trick he had picked up from Two-Bit. It seems to run in this family. Derry stared at him for a second, then cracked a grin. Soda isn't afraid of him like everyone else, and enjoys teasing him. I'd just as soon to tease a fully grown grizzly. For some reason, Derry likes being teased by Soda. Our gang had chased the Socials to their car and heaved rocks at them. They came running towards us now, 4 lean, hard guys. They were as tough as nails and looked like it. I'd grown up with them, and they accepted me, even though I was younger because I was Derry's and Soda's kid, and I'd kept my mouth shut up good. Steve Randall was 17, tall and lean, with thick, greasy hair he kept combed back in complicated swirls. He was cocky, smart, and Soda's best buddy since grade school. Steve's specialty was cars. He could lift a hubcap quicker than anyone and quietly in the neighborhood. But he also knew cars upside down, backwards, and he could drive anything on wheels. He and Soda worked at the same gas station. Steve was part-time and Soda was full-time, and their gas station got more customers than any other in town, whether it's because Steve was so good with cars or Soda attracted girls like honey draws flies. I couldn't tell you. I liked Steve only because he was Soda's best friend. Soda always took me with them whenever they went places. They weren't talking with girls. And that bugged Steve. It's not my fault. Soda always asked me, and I didn't ask him. Soda doesn't think I'm a kid. Two-Bit Matthews was the oldest of our gang, and the wisecracker of the bunch. He was about 6 feet tall, stocky in build, and proud of his long, rusty-colored sideburns. He had gray eyes and a wide grin, and he couldn't stop making remarks to save his life. You couldn't shut up that guy. He always had to get his 2 bits worth in, hence his name. Even his teachers forgot his real name was Keith, and we hardly remembered he had one. Life was one big joke to 2-Bit. He was famous for shoplifting and his black-handled switchblade, which he couldn't get without requiring his first talent. But he's always smarting off the cops. He really couldn't help it. Everything he said was so irresistibly funny, and he just had to let the police know on it and brighten up their dull lives. That's the way he explained it to me. He liked fights, blondes, and for some unfathomable reason, school. He was still a junior at 18 and a half, and he never learned anything. He just went for kicks. I liked him real well because he kept us laughing at ourselves, as well as at other things. He reminded me of Will Rogers. Maybe it was the grin. If I had to pick a real character of the gang, it'd be Dallas Winston. Dally. I used to draw his picture when he was in a dangerous mood. For then I could get his personality down in a few lines. He had an elfish face with high cheekbones and a pointed chin, small sharp animal teeth, and ears like a lynx. His hair was almost white, it was so blonde, and he didn't like haircuts. Or hair oil either, so he kept it over his forehead and was kicked out in the back in tufts and curled behind his ears and along the nape of his neck. His eyes were blue, blazing eyes, cold with hatred for the world. Dahlia spent 3 years on the wild side of